Hey guys, it's me again, and welcome to another Henry Stickmin video. I didn't think I'd be making another one of these, but life is full of surprises, right? Before we get into the endings though, I need to make a few things clear right from the start. 1. I did not expect my last Henry Stickmin video to get so much attention. The shock of seeing the views on that video steadily rise has made me realize that not only did I not put enough effort into it, but my opinions have changed now that I've learned more about the universe and events and characters that made things the way they are. I don't know if you all knew this about me, but I'm actually really camera shy in real life, so I have anxiety over talking into a microphone that had been preventing me from recording at all, sometimes for weeks or even months at a time. Therefore, my mindset when making that video was one born out of a creative renaissance, as the long-term effects of my new medication are finally kicking in and helping me out of that anxiety. 2. This is the first video I'm writing a script for in a long time. The last time I did this in earnest was, I think, the shelter video? But ever since I made the creepypasta that I wrote video, I've been thinking about doing more scripted stuff. This is because I want this video to be as well thought out and non-rambly as possible, as I have ADHD and autism that sometimes makes thinking on the fly difficult. But I'm a pretty decent writer from years of honing my sappy fanfiction skills, so hopefully I'll have enough time to iron out the kinks in my thought process by the time I read this through for the video. 3. Because this video is a sequel, I actually get to use the comments to reevaluate how I rated the endings. In order to make things easier for myself, since I forced an arbitrary ranking system between 32 different endings, I ranked them based on where Henry ends up after the ending, whether that's kicking ass with Charles and Ellie or, you know, dead. However, everyone in the comments was ranking them based on how fun they were to get, which does make more sense, but it makes the task of ranking them nearly impossible for me because pretty much all the endings are fun to get. I've said before that aside from Triple Threat, Special Brovert Ops, Top at Civil Warfare, and maybe Valiant Hero, I can't really rank the endings because they're all so good that they're probably all going to end up near the top anyway, which defeats the purpose of ranking things in the first place. So maybe I've just been approaching this from the wrong angle. Henry Stickmin is a series where every ending has equal weight, and in fact, all exist at the same time. For this reason, instead of which endings are better than other endings, I should rank every ending individually using certain criteria. I'll be focusing on the final 16 endings and just talk about the earlier ones as each becomes relevant, as well as explaining why completing the mission is the perfect ending to the series.
Yeah, so apparently there's something in that cake, and he used it to escape. And then I got fired.
As always, we start with breaking the bank. Now, there isn't much to say here because there's only one ending, but I just wanted to interject early on to provide context for people who don't care about spoilers, and to comment on my use of the word ending. People pointed out in the last one that none of them should count as actual endings aside from the final 16, but they're forgetting that this is a series, and just because something has a sequel doesn't mean it didn't have an ending. These are different stories, it says so in the game itself and even in the title, so I'm unsure as to where this came from. But regardless, my goal here has changed, so my definition of ending will too. I'm also going to quickly gloss over escaping the prison and stealing the diamond for the same reasons. One more thing I should add before we move on though, is that these first 3 games establish the universe, and they're fun to play of course, but not much actually happens in them story-wise. All you really need to know is that Henry Stickmin, not Henry Stickman, attempted to rob a bank, escape from prison, and stole a diamond. But I will talk about these endings at least a little bit now because I won't be coming back to them later. I have definitive favorites for these first few games that I didn't realize I had before. I said for example that Badass Bust Out was my favorite escaping the prison ending because it was cool, but every time I actually write for the universe, I choose for Henry to have snuck out undetected. Maybe it's because I love the idea of a smooth and stealthy infiltration, because that's how I've begun to play games, rather than my old instinct of just swinging a sword until the battle music stops. Maybe it's kind of poetic that my opinion on these endings has changed to match that, but regardless, if you're curious, my new ranks for escaping the prison are a sneaky escapist, badass bust out, and then lawyered up. I'm sorry, I just don't like lawyered up that much. It's weird and boring. As for stealing the diamond, my new ranks are unseen burglar, intruder on a scooter, and then just plain epic, all for the same reasons. Someone pointed out in the previous video that just plain epic is actually a pretty lame ending, as Henry didn't even get the diamond because of skill on his part. He only got away with the diamond because it just so happened to land next to him after the CCC destroyed the museum. Anyway, on to the part where the story actually starts to pick up and become interesting, because your final ending depends on the endings you acquired from infiltrating the airship and fleeing the complex. Trust me when I say it gets crazy later. We'll start with the endings that had the least impact on me and move up to the most. That means we're starting with Little Nest Egg.
Mr. Macbeth, passenger car 3 has been smashed by a tank. We're under attack.
This is the ending that follows Relentless Bounty Hunter, where Henry earns his pardon and gets Reginald arrested, and Presumed Dead, where Henry tricks Petrov into thinking he perished on the cliff. I should also add here that all endings that follow Henry breaking in through the windshield in ITA end with Right-Hand Man as a cyborg, because Henry fights him on the bridge during the run, and it ends up severely crippling him. This is significant because the endings that follow this event usually have Right-Hand Man as an even stronger adversary, or your most powerful asset, and in Little Nest Egg, he is neither. He doesn't even show up, you just hear his voice right at the end. I think that's all you need to know to figure out why this ending is so lame. It's also one where Henry is completely alone, which just feels lonely. I don't need him to be with Charles or Ellie for it to be good, but he should have someone, right? Even if it's, like, the guy he buys cigarettes from, I don't know. And no, as much of a disappointment as this may be, the Undertale reference isn't enough to save it. For these reasons, I give Little Nest Egg 2 stolen train cars out of 10. Okay, but nothing special.
General, what's going on?
I have no idea. There's no way we can do the mission now.
Next up is Top Hat for Life. This one follows from Rapidly Promoted Executive, where Henry betrays the government to take over the Top Hat clan, and presumed dead. The only reason why this one doesn't just fade into the back of my memory is because of the Breath of the Wild reference and the infamous walkthrough scene, as well as the CCC, as always, making everything Henry does worse. One thing I do appreciate is that this game never puts you in direct conflict with Charles. Even when you side against him, he just kinda disappears or doesn't show up in the first place. What is cool about Top Hat for Life in particular is that Henry is actually able to stop the government mission before it happens, using just enough stealth that they never knew it was him. While that's cool and all, if we're looking for good Top Hat endings, there are far better, and so this one in comparison is just a little bit dull. I give Top Hat for Life 4 bejeweled hats out of 10. Good, but comparatively forgettable.
Hey, Chief, we spotted him outside.
Get him! Stop him! Fire Supreme Dominance now! Whoa. Okay. Charging up Supreme Dominance for you.
Next is Jewel Baron, which follows from Pure-Blooded Thief, where Henry betrays the government to steal the Top Hat's ruby, and Ghost Inmate, where you betray Ellie at the wall to escape undetected. I've said this before, but while Pure-Blooded Thief is pretty fun for me to get, Ghost Inmate is not. I sort of dislike this ending because you have to betray Ellie, of course, but there are other problems with this route. Jewel Baron is just fine. That's it. It doesn't particularly stand out to me. It's just an ending where Henry has betrayed everyone for money. I know, it sounds like a cool ending, and we should never have a world with just the standard good guy plot, but in my opinion, an ending like this is just no fun. We did get to see evidence that Henry remembers his fails, which is kind of a chilling thought, and who could forget the demon chance time? But other than that, it's just another Henry gets a shiny object route. The only thing that's really cool about this one is that you get to reflect Supreme Dominance back onto the Top Hat orbital station, which is just an incredible scene. One of the best in the game, in fact. So with that in mind, Jewel Baron gets 5 stolen emeralds out of 10. Maybe 6 if I'm being really generous.
These assets include all treasures and artifacts they have stolen throughout the years. Now these treasures are worth quite a lot of money, so we gotta make sure.
Next up is Cleaned 'Em Out, following government-supported Private Investigator, where Henry sides with the government and gets the whole airship arrested with Charles' help, and Ghost Inmate. I usually have very positive feelings about Charles endings, but this could hardly count as one. Not only do you never see Charles after infiltrating the airship, nor Ellie after you betray her and fleeing the complex, after all is said and done, it's basically just Little Nest Egg with a new coat of paint. Sure, it's a fun route, but all of them are to an extent. Plus, it's just another Henry steals things but not against the government this time. It's evil, but without anything that makes being evil fun. Cleaned 'Em Out gets 5 suck packs out of 10, but only because Henry gets to be evil to be good, which is kind of funny. Now we're getting into the endings with some fight in them, starting with Free Man.
Hello. You should have stayed in your cell.
Free Man follows Relentless Bounty Hunter and Ghost Inmate. A bit of a shaky start, but everything afterwards is fantastic. The orbital station is up, and Henry has to fight his way out. There are real stakes here, namely Henry's life, and this route has what is almost the best standoff against Right-Hand Man in the whole series. This is really where he gets his revenge for what Henry did to him, and what he did to Reg. And besides that, it's a damn fun route to play. Free Man gets 7 out of 10 escape pods. Next on my list is... oh boy. Is it too late to start this over?
I heard the guy I helped escape was the leader of the Top Hat clan, so I busted myself out and followed him. I helped you escape, and you just left me.
Top Hat Civil Warfare, following Rapidly Promoted Executive and, you're not gonna believe this, Scully, Ghost Inmate. I initially intended to put this one way further down, but even though it's the most flavorless ending, it's not without potential. I've never played another route where I wanted to see Henry lose. After doing more research since the last video, I realized that Reginald was right in a sense. Henry usurped Reginald from his leadership position after betraying the government, only to betray another person when he got caught. That's no way to treat your allies. I do have some sympathy for Henry in this route, of course, and Reginald is certainly not without fault, but I failed to take all factors into account when I initially judged this ending. It's the ending that feels the least like a proper ending, and whether that's a good thing or a terrible thing is up for debate. It could certainly make for a cool fix, though. Overall, this one had a pretty decent impact. I give it 7 Daves out of 10.
Me?
Intruder? Who is that? Can we stop him, please?
Next up is Stickmin Space Resort, following Pure-Blooded Thief and Presumed Dead. In this ending, Henry is crazy enough to steal a rocket. And it actually works. And Henry has good aim with a gun for once. Right-Hand Man isn't a cyborg, of course, but this is still a good RHM ending. And if you really like endings where Henry just goes f*** it and betrays everyone, then this is the best ending for you. It also helps that it's one of the funnest routes to actually play through, and Henry ends up in an awesome spot by the end. He basically did the government's job for them, and he gets to sit up on his fancy throne and run a resort in space. All in all, it's pretty cool. I give SSR 8 bow ties out of 10.
I was gonna hunt you down when we got set up, but now you just fall right into my lap. Go on your feet. I'll give you one shot.
Next up is Master Bounty Hunter, following Relentless Bounty Hunter and International Rescue Operative, where Henry calls Charles to pick him up from the complex in his helicopter. Now, I can rave about the stupid dance-off scenes because I'm ranking endings differently. This is also one of the best RHM endings, where he's a cyborg and a formidable adversary, and it's a government ending where Charles is your ally, whom I have a bit of a bias for. Plus, I'm pretty fond of the other bounty hunters in this route. It has great character development, hilarious failures, and is fun to play, of course. Master Bounty Hunter gets 8 default dances out of 10. Now we're in the real winners, the endings that keep on giving, the endings I keep thinking about because of how good they are. And first on that arbitrary list is...
Happy Feet!
Stickmin!
Capital Gains, following Relentless Bounty Hunter and Convict Allies, where Henry escapes the well with the help of Ellie. This is another Right-Hand Man is a major adversary as a cyborg route, and going up against him with a battle partner certainly makes things more interesting. The scene with Henry and Ellie riding on the stolen tank facing off a gun that shoots swords is an image I will never get out of my head, and for all the best reasons. If you like Ellie and pretty much no one else, this is hands down the best ending. It's fun, it's silly, it's epic, it's good. I give Capital Gains 8 SpongeBob reference bags out of 10.
Should be right around the... What? Hang on!
Yes, sir. We found them. They took the bike here just like you said. I am on the way. Send in the entire squad.
Next, I'm going to tackle 2 endings at once, and those are Top Hat Recruits and Pardon Pals, which both follow from Pure-Blooded Thief and Convict Allies. One of my biggest regrets when making the original video is that I put Pardon Pals way too high on the list compared to Top Hat Recruits, when these routes are 99% identical. I think the reason I did this is because I love Charles and not necessarily the Top Hats, but the discrepancy is too high even for that reason. In reality, both of these endings are fantastic, and they are chock full of memorable scenes, from Petrov's new lisp, to the standoff on the rocket, to the explosion, or the fight with Petrov on the launching rocket. I give both Top Hat Recruits and Pardon Pals 9 roses out of 10.
You two, get to the rocket. Henry. 1, 2, 3.
The rocket is launching in 5 minutes.
Do something.
Next is Top Hat King, following Rapidly Promoted Executive and Convict Allies. This is sort of the sister ending to Top Hat Civil Warfare, except Henry proves that he not only has Ellie's best interests at heart, but the interests of the Top Hat clan as well. He earns Reginald's trust, Cyborg RHM is your ally, and it has some of the coolest scenes in the game, as well as the funniest fails. And that's really how we're judging these endings, right?
Wow.
If you like the Top Hats, or if you like Ellie, this is the best ending. I give Top Hat King 9 golden Top Hats out of 10.
What? Who's that?
Did you set the autopilot? Alright then, let's bail.
Triple Threat! Following government-supported private investigator and convict allies. And if you know anything about me, you know that this is my personal favorite ending. Charles and Ellie are the best characters in the game, in my humble opinion, so seeing all 3 main characters working together is quite a treat. Plus, this is the route where it becomes apparent that Henry, Ellie, and Charles all collectively share one brain cell. I don't know how you can be dumber together rather than apart, but it sure is entertaining to watch. The highlight of this route really is seeing Ellie be the first to question Charles' plan of crashing his helicopter. I give Triple Threat a full 10 rockets out of 10.
Henry? Are you in trouble? If you're in trouble, say flank steak.
No, wait. If you're in trouble, say still can't tell. Oh, actually, I can see it from here. Yeah, it looks pretty bad.
Charles is my favorite character. I think I've made this pretty obvious by now. So if Triple Threat wasn't my favorite, it would definitely be this one. Special Brovert Ops. Following government-supported private investigator and international rescue operative, this one is the best Charles-only ending by far. I think about this ending all the time. From the SAM turret to the dancing robot to the losing control scene, this route is a delight from start to finish. Everything about it is marvelous. I really can't sing its praises enough. The only thing stopping it from being higher on the list is that it lacks Ellie. If it wasn't for that factor, it would easily be my number one. By far. Because of this, Special Brovert Ops gets 10 helicopters out of 10. Easily a perfect score. We're almost to the end, so let's get through this, shall we?
Hey, easy. You were gone for a bit. I was able to bring you back to life.
Revenge follows from the only ending in Fleeing the Complex that is incompatible with every Infiltrating the Airship ending, except for one. It follows from Rapidly Promoted Executive and The Betrayed, where Henry calls Reginald to pick him up only to be dropped into the ocean to die. And it is every bit as horrifying as that name implies. This is perhaps the most hopeless ending because nobody wins in the end. Henry got his revenge, but at what cost? The Toppats certainly aren't any better off either. The government wins, I guess, but we don't even see them during this route aside from the events of ITA. But this route isn't all doom and gloom, because the face-off against Right-Hand Man here is easily the best in the whole series. I can only imagine how long it took to choreograph an anime because holy crap, it's insane. Many people in my comments said that this one was their favorite for those fight scenes alone, and I can't say I blame them one bit. This is a depressing ending, but it's not without merit. Not even close. That's why I'm giving Revenge 10 sword arms out of 10. So, we've made it.
Secret government prototype. What do you think? There it is. Alright, how do you want me to bring you in? Oh, this is so exciting. It's just like last time.
Valiant Hero, following government-supported private investigator and presumed dead. This is possibly the most infamous ending in the whole series, because it shocked us. We went from silly cartoon shenanigans to mind-bending angst within the span of 10 seconds. That kind of emotional whiplash is very effective in storytelling so long as it's done correctly, and Valiant Hero was shocking enough to leave a lasting emotional impact on us. It's worth noting that until completing the mission came out, I considered the Henry Stickmin games nothing more than good games. They were amazing, obviously, but I didn't pay them much mind aside from a casual passing interest. That is, until I saw how the series ended. You see, the fact that Puffballs United thought to make so many different endings to follow from previous combinations of endings was the first factor. Something like that takes a lot of time, and it takes risk, too. Many people wouldn't have done that because of the risk of fan backlash, or simply due to lack of time. But he did it, and he did it beautifully. The next factor was writing actual character development. I got super attached to Right-Hand Man over the course of completing the mission, when his role in infiltrating the airship was somewhat minimal at best. And that's just one example. The third and final factor was, well...
It was a pretty good plan. Could say it was the greatest.
Charles' death. It was taken surprisingly seriously. It was executed flawlessly. We feel Henry's pain, his grief. They say you don't know what you have it until it's gone. So even though Charles lives in 15 out of 16 endings, that one death made all the difference. I definitely appreciate that kind of boldness, and when you aren't afraid of disappointing people, you can do incredible things. Valiant Hero was the factor that rocketed Henry Stickmin into infamy, along with all the other factors that make it so great. It started as just a humble flash game on Newgrounds, but it turned into a legacy. That's why Valiant Hero gets 10 greatest plans out of 10. It had the biggest impact on me, even though I don't consider it my favorite ending. So, what can we ultimately take from this? Henry Stickmin is a good series, and it has too many good endings to truly rank them effectively. One thing to consider is that nobody is going to rank all these endings completely equally. That's because, at its core, Henry Stickmin is a choose-your-own-adventure story, where you can go for your favorite ending yourself. You don't have to get all of them, though of course you can if you want to, and putting some endings above others as if they're objectively better is going against the spirit of the game itself. I knew that when I made the original, but I still ranked the endings the way I did as more of a personal challenge than anything else. I feel now that I probably should have made that more obvious because in hindsight, the way I did things in the original video is a little bit confusing. I even made another graphic to make sure I had everything straight in my head, and I don't know how, but it somehow ended up even more confusing than the original graphic I made. But it worked, it served its purpose, so I can't be too mad about it. I also made graphics to represent which ending in completing the mission got which score, as well as which endings I tended to prefer from ITA and FTC based on the scores of their respective final endings. But now that I've said all that, what do you think? Why do you like certain endings, and which CTM ending was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. I always look forward to hearing other people's opinions, and yes, you are allowed to disagree with me, as always. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Man, this is gonna take forever.